Imagine this. You're going to the plant nursery because you have a spot in your mind that would be perfect for a plant. And as you get out of the car and head into the nursery, you go past all the outdoor plants and you head over to the greenhouses and you look up and you see the sign, indoor plants. Perfect, that's where we're going. And when we go inside, it's brightly lit with beautiful diffused light from all angles. There are plants everywhere. And as you walk up and down the aisles, you think, these plants would be great. And then you see one, and you think, that one would be perfect. That's the one that I'm looking for. And you pick up the tag and you have a look at it. And it says bright indirect light. Okay, so it's pretty bright in this greenhouse. You keep going and you look at another plant and you think, wow, that's a nice one too. And again, it would look beautiful in the space in your mind. But you keep going out the back of that particular greenhouse and into the next greenhouse. And now you're faced with a different environment altogether. It's very dark. It reminds you of walking through the forest floor. There's not a lot of light in here, but it's just as warm and humid as the last place. Oh, there's one. There's the same one that was in the previous greenhouse. And you pick up the tag and surely it is. And just like the last tag, it says bright indirect light. But it's not bright in here. You couldn't read a book in here. But yet the plants seem to be beautiful and thriving. And you think, will this work in my home? Each greenhouse had very different light. And you think about that space in your home that you know is begging for a plant. You're feeling confused? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you going to pick up that plant and take a chance on it? Or are you going to walk away thinking, I don't know what to do. I just don't know whether this plant will work in that space anymore. Has this been you? Well, I can certainly tell you that you are not alone. This has been me dozens of times early in my plant journey. In today's video, we're here to answer some of these questions for you. And I'm going to show you how you can perform an analysis on that space in your home so that you will be more confident that you're going to choose plants that will do well in that space. You don't need any instruments to perform these tests. While instruments are helpful, and we will be verifying our results with our instruments, you can do this at home without any instruments, just with the things that you have. And based on these findings, we're going to be confident that we can choose a plant in our home that will be perfect in this space. And we're going to use specific spaces in my home to test with. There are a number of factors we need to consider with light. What time of day is it? What season is it? Are there windows? How big are they? And what's the orientation of those windows? On your north-facing side or your south-facing side? Perhaps they're east or west. Now, when we're talking about window orientation and light orientation, there are differences based on where you're living in the world. Down here in Australia, our light curves to the north, which means that during the winter months, the light is lower in the sky and it comes through our northern windows. In the northern hemisphere, it's actually the opposite to that. Your south light is your strongest light. It's got the strongest intensity coming from the south. Everywhere in the world, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So you get lovely flashes of light coming in the morning, which are usually not as intense as the afternoon sun coming through those western windows. We're going to assess the amount of light in a space without the benefit of a meter. Now, when we're doing this, the best we can expect is to be able to determine whether we have low light, medium light, or high light. And high light would be bright indirect light. As a wise character once said, your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them.
Your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them.
When we move throughout the spaces, whether we're in a light area or a dark area, our eyes adjust. And the way that it does that in dark places, our pupils dilate. They do that to let more light in so we can see better. And the opposite is true. When we're in a very, very bright spot, our pupils constrict so that we're letting less light in. So what we're actually seeing, it's filtered so we're receiving a perception of the amount of light. Now, and this is exactly why when people say, well, if you can comfortably read a book in the space without turning the lights on, you've got bright indirect light. I'm not sure that that stacks up against the science. So I like to be a little bit more precise in the way that I check. So how do you test light without a light meter? Well, we use the shadow test. While it's not the most reliable form of test in the world, it will give you a really good indicator as to the type of light or the intensity of the light that is coming in your home. And we do that by looking at the shadow that we can cast on a wall. Now you can't actually see it very well in this shot here, but there is a shadow behind it. It's a bit fuzzy. When we check it with the light meter, we can see that we're getting a low light situation here. And what about this one? Looks kind of similar to the last. Fuzzy shadow. Feels very low to low light. And we check it with the light meter, we see 160. So yep, another test confirmed. And if you're getting value out of this video, consider giving us a like. Maybe you'd like to subscribe to the channel. We love plant parents, join our community. And even if you're not a plant parent, join the community. This video is not sponsored, but if you would like to look at the light meter that I'm using, the link will be in the description. And don't forget, we may want to come back and test this again at another time of the day. The sun will move and the light will change. So just because you have low light when you test in a space doesn't necessarily mean you'll have low light there all the time. Now check out the shadow being cast by the light meter on this plant. It's much more pronounced. This is almost medium light. So we've got the autumn sun flushing straight through these beautiful windows here. We're to take a look down the side of my north facing windows. All the way down, we're coming into the middle of the afternoon. It's the brightest and most intense time of the day. There's no cloud cover. The window does play a part in filtering some of the light's intensity. But it is still direct light. It's the brightest spot in my home, which is why the majority of my bright-loving plants are located here. One more thing. This video is going to be part of a series on choosing the right house plants for you, depending on your conditions, environment, and a whole host of other factors. There's a lot to unpack here. This was the first video, and it was about light and how I assess the light in a space because I want to put a plant there, but I want to choose the right plant. Future videos will be going through other important topics. So if that sounds like something that you'd want to see, please subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.